Hello, demigods, monsters, and gods alike. This is the Olympus Report. Walker Scobell just gave us the inside scoop on Season 2. Before we jump into Season 2 details, we got a couple more behind-the-scenes photos shared from set. Here we can see a part of Polyphemus's cave. Unfortunately, it's blurry, so we can't make out too much detail, but it's still cool to see. A crew member also shared a picture of some plants. Probably from something within the Sea of Monsters. I'm thinking maybe Xerxes' spa. Okay, now let's talk the inside scoop. During a recent interview, Walker talked everything Season 2, and apparently Season 2 is going to start a bit differently than the book. It starts off in a little bit of a different place, at least for Percy, than the book, just because of how much bigger I've gotten. And I would say he's a bit happier than in the book. I feel like he's definitely changed a little bit since we last saw him. Alright, let's break this down. I think we've all seen how much the cast has grown since Season 1. And with how long it takes to make these seasons, it was never feasible that they were going to stay the correct ages they were supposed to be in the books. And that's okay. Young adults in their 20s play teenagers all the time. And honestly, the cast of Percy Jackson is way closer to the ages they're supposed to be than a lot of other productions. Or maybe they're gonna age the characters up a bit in Season 2. Either way, I'm okay with it because it doesn't affect the integrity of the story. And I personally like a happier Percy. He definitely seemed more lighter in Season 1, especially at the end. And one of the reasons The Sea of Monsters is my least favorite book from the original 5 Percy Jackson books is because of how moody Percy was. So if they're doing away with this, I'm a big fan. And I think they've made these changes to reflect the tone of the season, which Walker describes as being ramped up right away.
A lot more action. There's a lot more action, which I love. I think it fits this book perfectly because this book is just one long adventure. You know what I mean? There's not many moments where we just stop and sit and talk, you know? We're on the move.
He also had this to say. I feel like last season was very much like we would stay in one place and have a conversation and then there'd be an action sequence. You know what I mean? It was awesome, but this season the stakes are higher for our characters. So it almost feels like there's never a place where we just stop and talk. We're almost always doing something, which I think fits this book perfectly. There's just so much at stake for our characters. My biggest issue with Season 1, and I think a lot of people's biggest issue with Season 1, was the lack of action and the pacing of the show, which Walker talks about in this quote here. Just when things started to seem like they were ramping up, it just kind of abruptly ended. Action scenes felt too short and too fast. A prime example of this is Mrs. Dodds, which was glossed over, or the Chimera fight, which felt underwhelming to me. Another issue I had, and a lot of people had with Season 1, is how Percy, Annabeth, and Grover figured out every trap before they even walked into this. Well, Walker had this to say about Season 2.
I think my favorite thing about this season that's changed from last season, or not changed, but one thing that we've really, that's way more prominent this season is things, like bad things just kind of happen, you know what I mean? And it's not like, there is a big bad of every episode, but it's like when bad things happen, they're not like telegraphed or like it's not made a big deal, like they just happen. And that's my favorite thing. Like there's a bunch of moments where I've had to just, as my character, just be shocked because things just kind of happen and you have to move on, just like in real life. Yeah, I think it'll just continue to, lean more and more into that as we go on.
So it sounds like they may have fixed this issue as well. And it also sounds like they could be setting up for a darker tone in Season 3 and moving forward. And I think a reason for some of these issues was a lack of budget. But like we've talked about before, Season 2 is going to have a bigger budget. And I think less explanation and more action is going to help the show a lot. And I'm super excited that they're actually listening to our feedback. It shows that they care what we think and they want to please the fans. Walker also had stuff to add about his relationship with Annabeth in Season 2. Percy and Annabeth, they have a little bit of an argument at the beginning that kind of lingers. It gets resolved at the end, but I think we're playing into the fact that we've all grown and our characters have spent a lot of time apart. So it's like we have these new dynamics. Our relationships with each other are very different. I think this is in reference to the fight over Tyson, which was kind of short-lived in the book, but seems that they're going to drag it out a bit more in the show. I also think we saw the beginning of this fight in the behind-the-scenes footage captured from set, where we can see Percy and Annabeth arguing before getting in a cab. Definitely an important part of the story, and I'm interested to see which direction they take it in. Walker also confirmed that much of Season 2 was shot on location, and not on the volume, which I'm a fan of. While the volume is a great advancement in film technology, shows on it can often sometimes feel flat. So real location shoots are definitely going to help this season feel bigger. Some great insights from Walker, so thank you for sharing that with us. What are your thoughts on what he said? Let me know down in the comments below. But for right now, that's all I have for you. So until next time, I'm signing off. And please, as always, stay safe.